the world's most expensive stamp. Is it worth it? Well, that's the subject for today's Mark and Pete Live. I'm Pete, the clergyman, and with me is Mark, the businessman. So what have you got for us this week then, Mark?
Philately.
What is it all about? Philately, yes. Philately will get you nowhere. Oh, no, I'm not going to make that joke. That
No,
would be terrible.
Indeed. But what is extraordinary is that we have now just witnessed the purchase of a very rare stamp, which is now believed to be the world's most valuable man-made item. So not just the most valuable stamp, but the most valuable man-made item, an extraordinary purchase. So, yeah, I mean, I think
yes,
the
there
funny
it is.
thing
Yes,
there it is. It's the rare British Guiana One-Cent Magenta stamp. And it's now gone on display. Wow.
Yes.
And it's a staggering $8.3 million.
By the way, there it is on display.
Yes. A wonderful purchase, if ever there was one.
Yes, $8.3 million, which is £6.2 million. And this stamp is returning to the UK for the first time in 143 years after being sold at auction to a British rare stamp dealer. The British Guiana One-C, I suppose that's 1 cent, Magenta was bought by a rare stamp dealer, Stanley Gibbons, last month. And as you said, the dealer said that gram for gram, the stamp is thought to be the most valuable man-made item in the world. It's the only survivor from a small batch printed on the first British colony of British Guiana, now Guyana. I presume it's pronounced in the same way.
Indeed.
Oh, now these details here, presumably only of interest to a philatelist. It's printed on magenta paper measuring 29 by 26 millimeters, bears a 3-masted ship and the colony's motto. So interesting little stamp, tiny little piece. I expect the fact that it's so small and light is the reason it's so expensive per unit volume or weight, or however they measured it. But yes, but surely you as a businessman think this is great.
I think it's a fantastic investment, albeit for one minor detail. And I think it's something that we just want to highlight on the screen, because on the actual stamp itself, it has a motto. I always think that when you buy a product, you should always look at the fine details. And the devil is in the detail, because the colony's motto at the time was, "We give and expect in return." Yeah, sorry, we give and expect in return. Now, of course, this is obviously something that was crafted many, many years ago, but nevertheless, in my opinion, one might say a bit of a curmudgeon businessman, but it undermines its value. And I'll give you my take on this, Clergyman Pete. And here's my thought. And of course, it's the best way imaginable. And I've coined this return to sender. Yes, indeed. So, if you give and expect in return, and profit is what you really yearn, the important thing to always learn, charity is not where you should earn. So there you go.
Yeah. I think you're right, Mark. I mean, this sort of thing ought to be stamped out, shouldn't it?
It should be. And it's gone into circulation, spreading a terrible motto throughout the world. And somebody, a twit, has gone and bought it for £6.2 million. What are you doing, sir? Mr. Gibbons. Monkeying around with your money.
Yes. I think the lesson to be learned here, it's sort of like a business lesson of life is, look, a thing, whatever it is only worth as much as someone is willing to pay for it. You might think they're an idiot, but but they're not an idiot if they're then not able to sell it on. And indeed, the current owner, of course, I mean, he's got his business head screwed on, hasn't he?
Well, I want to ask you here, because the language goes even further than this. Because you being a man of the cloth, as they say, now Graham Shikor is the chief executive of Stanley Gibbons, called it the holy grail of philately. Of all things, he's now using an analogy of religious benefits.
Well, I guess that's the holy grail in that it's something that's been sought after so much. And to the extent that the owner and I guess his company are offering shares in the stamp. And we commented this on a previous Mark and Pete episode, the fact that this idea of having a public commodity, it could be someone's backlog of songs, it could be anything that's been created that you can copyright or have proof of ownership. And when you own that, you can offer shares in it in the same way as you would have shares in a company, and thus raise even more money, presumably, to buy another stamp. I don't know where he can do whatever he likes with it, I guess, invested in his company.
I think we need to go back again to the detail here, because unfortunately this particular stamp has an unusual track record. Because if you go back to the article, it says,
oh yes, so let's go to the article.
It has marks from all of its previous owners, including the government of France and Jean Dupont, who was convicted in 1997 of murdering Olympic gold medalist David Schultz and died in prison in 2010. So my point here is, if maybe this hot potato of a stamp may not necessarily have the sort of good luck charm that you would want in that sense. It has a checkered record. So maybe Clergyman Pete, and I know with all the wealth of the money that you've got, would you want to spend more than £6.2 million just to add to the trail of infamy that goes on with this stamp? I ask you, is it worth it?
The thing is, this just highlighting the point you made there of the murder of the Olympic gold medalist David Schultz. It's interesting that history to it. I suppose that makes it even more interesting to a collector. But I just have to put a personal point there as we draw this to a close, and I wonder what our listeners and viewers think. I don't get what this idea of collecting stuff. It just isn't something that interests me. Like a lot of people, when I was a teenager, I was given a stamp book in which to collect stamps. I just didn't get the point of it. I got bored with it pretty quickly. I mean, I tried to show I was grateful at the time, but I thought I don't understand this. So I don't get collecting. What is it about collecting? Why should things like this be so valuable?
I can see the aspiration, and I'm going to make an admission. I was part of a philately club at school, and the reason
was embarrassing.
Indeed, but the reason for it was that, apart from being sort of forced into this, but there was, dare I say, a glimmer of optimism, in the sense that the idea of actually trading something to your fellow philatelists, in the sense of you may have something they don't, so it's a sort of form of desire, but also having something potentially uncovered that's rare. Now, obviously, if anybody had one of these type of particular stamps that we're talking about, you would have been extremely popular and probably in a wealthy mansion somewhere. But the fact of the matter is that the idea of collecting something builds up on one level. There's a monetary value, but there's also the level where you actually sort of learn, because I think, to the point that you see here, each of the stamps, as they get more and more rare, have a history. So what you're doing is you're actually uncovering something else. And that's why I highlighted the checkered record of this particular stamp, because it's not just about a stamp and what stamps are. It's actually the people behind the ownership of the stamp and what it represents. So yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on your level of interest, and whether it's in stamps collecting or any other things that you feel has value. But yes, I think that my suggestion here is if you do feel that philately is something of interest, send a stamped addressed envelope to Mark and Pete.
Yes,
at Virtual Land.
with your rarest stamp attached.
Yes, yes.
Well, I guess that's all
or stick it in an email.
That's all from us. Catch you next time.